When I see the amount of coverage that that we got throughout the pandemic, just from a media point of view, I look in the news and there'll be maybe, I tried to estimate it. I think there's probably 100 news articles on that for every one about the opioid crisis.
Sure.
And yet the opioid crisis in BC, at least, is claiming more people between the age of 25 and 49 in their productive years by far. So what is it about, you would think that we would look at that and say, okay, we have to put at least as much effort, spotlight, energy, resources, whatever, into that problem. But it's not even close. If you look at the money that's been poured in, it's not even in the same hemisphere.
No.
So you got any thoughts on why that might be?
I think, I as you were talking, the thing that came up for me was what if you combine the numbers of overdose deaths with the numbers of suicides? And that there, in some ways, it's two different conversations. But there are similarities in that there's a lot of taboo there. There's a lot of stuff that people don't want to talk about there. And, I think, it sort of speaks to our tendency to go towards the easy answer, or society goes to things where we sort of pat ourselves on the back for starting the conversation. But I don't think the conversation very often gets finished and gets really, really flushed out. And I mean, I don't know. Do you think that if we combine those two numbers, overdose deaths and say suicide among the 20 to 40-year-old population, would seeing that, would grouping them together with mental health, would that benefit? Because to me, so often addiction gets talked about separately from mental health.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the problem, I guess, it's kind of a amorphous topic, right? It's hard to, you can say the words opioid crisis, but if you're to try to tackle the problem, like it's not about instituting, silly policies that can be like, okay, when you go into a restaurant, you have to put a mask on until you sit down. And then, things that can, at least when a politician puts in a policy like that, at least they can say to their constituents that they've proactively done something. But in this case, I think it might be harder for politicians to get active kind of PR points out of the amount of attention, work, manpower, whatever, that energy that they're going to have to put into the problem to have an impact. And maybe it's as simple as that. It's not good political bang for your buck.
That's right. But we sort of give a surface level of credit to a kind of a generic or safe tweet or Facebook post or something that can kind of generate some support. But what is it actually? How does that actually translate on the ground? And for communities in our country that have astronomical suicide rates or astronomical rates of overdose, and a lot of those are Indigenous communities. Like, what is that? How does that what that politician is saying that gives them the pat on the back? What does that mean to them, to that community?
I would imagine it is an insult.
I would too. Yeah, I would too.
If I was in that position, and I'm watching my community, I've lost my uncle, my sister, my two friends down the street, and there doesn't appear to be any kind of, nobody's showing up, nothing's happening, and yet this politician is trying to side themselves on the correct. They want to be on the right side of history as far as this is concerned. Yeah, that would be infuriating.
And it's kind of the same thing that's happening within our population of drug users and illicit drug users, that these deaths are happening rapidly around us, and we're still having the same debate.